Welcome to week 4. I am not going to dwell too long on what you need to do this week because I do want to spend the bulk of this video talking about journal number 3, the pre-writing exercise. So this week we're reading another example of a literacy narrative. This one is a little bit longer. Hopefully you've gotten a head start on that reading, and that's the reading from Mike Rose, I Just Want to Be Average. Again, I apologize that it's a bit of a longer reading, but I think Mike Rose is just a fantastic educator, was a fantastic educator. He's no longer living. And it's really interesting to read his story, to hear about where he came from and how he got his start. So make sure that you read that. When you're reading, make sure that you pay attention to how Rose highlights his experiences, both the positive and the negative, that he had with various teachers throughout high school, and how those experiences, as well as ones with his peers, his family, his community, and so on, shaped him as a literate person. So keep in mind that the first essay will be to write a narrative in a similar vein. It's not going to be as complex as Mike Rose's or even Malcolm X's. The goal is really to share your experiences as a reader and a writer so I can get to know you better as a student and hopefully customize some of the information that we go over this semester. So again, for the readings, make sure you read I Just Want to Be Average. And then we have a few other short readings. For grammar, we're focusing on commas this week, so make sure you do those readings in preparation for grammar quiz number 4. And then I have a couple of other things that will hopefully help you with the literacy narrative and preparing you for that. One is called Writing an Effective Narrative Introduction, and I'll open that for you. It talks about the various things that you need to see within an introduction, and things that you also want to avoid. Down here, this is just a generic thing regarding thesis statement. Typically in narratives, we don't have a very solid thesis, right? We may have some kind of a main idea that we include in the introductory paragraph, but it's not really a thesis like the ones that you have probably written for argumentative essays, or the thesis that sometimes is found in the 5-paragraph essay with those 3 points to tie back into last week's readings. So don't worry too much about the thesis statement, as long as your reader can get the main idea of what you are trying to get across in this literacy narrative, you should be fine. Of course, you want to make it interesting, have a lead sentence that can capture the reader's attention, and then a little bit of development, providing some background information, describing any characters, setting, leading into the problem and conflict in your narrative. Again, things to avoid. You can read those yourselves. I won't go over them point by point. The other reading within Canvas is called Organizing Your Essay. This one just gives you an idea of how to maybe go about gathering all of those thoughts that may be chaotic and floating around in your brain and trying to give them some kind of organization. So knowing how to organize your writing will take you a long way, especially as we get into the longer research essay. There are a variety of ways to go about organizing your essay, but there are 2 tools that I have found effective for my students. So you could write an outline. That could be a scratch outline or topic and sentence outlines, or you could create a sequence chart. I am going to assume that you're pretty familiar with outlining from your high school classes. So here we just have an example of an outline with Roman numerals. And then there's one that's a little bit more informal for the paper on the same topic, just kind of organizing ideas together. The table or the chart is one that I discovered or came across as a student was creating a draft when I was teaching at Cincinnati State, and I thought this was a fantastic idea. This student made a chart for each of the paragraphs that they were going to write in the essay. So I have examples here. And then they would write which information they wanted to include in that paragraph. And then if there was any kind of quotation or evidence that they needed to use, they had a column for that. So this could be another way for you to organize your information. You want to think about what sorts of things do I want to include in the introduction? What kinds of things do I want to have in my first body paragraph, second, third, fourth, fifth, however long it might be? And then how do I want to conclude the literacy narrative, right? So something informal like that can be good. So however you choose to organize your ideas, the key is to find something that works for you. That's why I don't require outlines. But the more you're able to organize your writing, the better and more logically your ideas are going to flow and be better understood by your audience. So please make sure that you take a look at this as well. I also have a PDF handout of essay number 1, which is not due until week 5, next week. But I think it's fair to give you a heads up so that you can see what you're up against. So you can take a read through that and just know that the essay number 1, the literacy narrative, will be between 500 and 750 words. So that turns out to be about 2 to 3 pages typed and double spaced with a 12-point font. I don't want you to overthink it. I don't want you to get anxious about it and, really start to freak out or panic. Just write as much as you can, right? You can always come back and revise and resubmit for an improved grade. That said, we're back in week 4. Sorry about that. Let me talk briefly about the pre-writing exercise. So for journal number 3, I am asking you to submit a pre-writing exercise. So you can think of this kind of as a really, really rough draft. We don't have a required rough draft, a formal rough draft for this first essay, but this is giving you an opportunity to get some of your ideas down on paper so I can look at things over and provide feedback for you and maybe steer you in a good direction. So it's a good idea to have a place to collect your initial ideas when you're pre-writing, so you have some direction for the essay. In this journal entry, I want you to consider creating a sort of outline or using some kind of organizing principle to help ensure that your thoughts flow logically. If you feel comfortable drafting an introduction to the essay, feel free to share it here. For the literacy narrative, you might want to order things chronologically, like Mike Rose does in his essay, or you might consider a different approach depending on what you want to focus on in your essay. Again, you can refer to that organizing your essay page for more ideas. But some of the things that I want you to start thinking about, right? Think about whether or not you want your descriptive writing to be objective or subjective. Objective means it's more public, more impartial, whereas subjective is really more getting into the emotions of the scene, right? So you can think about that. Also consider maybe coming up with like 3 scenes for a beginning, a middle, and an end to your narrative. And you want to use different sensory descriptions, sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste, that will help you to describe your scene. You will help it to come alive in the minds of your readers, right? The other thing you want to think about, what is the setting of those scenes, right? Who are the characters in the scenes? It might not just be you. It might be you and a teacher, you and a parent, you and a peer, you in a classroom, a public setting, something like that. And what is the main insight or idea that you want your reader to understand about you in that scene? And lastly, I want you to also think about objects that appear in the scene. This can help you to describe the mood that you want to convey. So I have an example here of 5 objects in this one scene: a library bookshelves, the table, the notebook, the clock on the wall, and flashcards. And these are 5 objects that the student might write about the mood they want to communicate, perhaps the stress they felt or the anticipation of their final high school exam, right? So that's another thing that you can think about um, as you start to consider what to write about, right, in your pre-writing exercise for journal number 3. If you have any questions about this, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, get some clarifications. But I do want to stress, sometimes you procrastinate because you just don't have any ideas. And really, the best thing is just try to get the ideas out here. This is a really informal brain dump for you, to get some ideas out on paper, out on the page. And then, maybe make some semblance of organization, which direction you want to go with your narrative. Okay. So, again, this narrative is about you becoming a reader and writer, right? Your literacy narrative, your educational history, so to speak. But again, for the journal, it's really, really informal. If you do it, you get full points. It's not like I'm going to take any points off. As long as you make an attempt to do the assignment, you're going to get full points for the assignment. We also have a discussion board similar to last week on reading and video responses. This week, I'm asking you the similar questions relating to the video, The Danger of a Single Story, as well as Mike Rose's I Just Want to Be Average. So here again, I want you to think about what the speaker's situation is, how their world is at the beginning, why their world is that way, what conflict they encounter, what problem do they have to overcome, and then what lesson may they have learned at the end. Okay, so hopefully that's clear. Again, just do the best you can for these low stakes assignments. I really don't mark anything off. It's not like you have to get 100% correct answers, right? I'm not looking for you to get correct answers. I'm looking for you to interact with the material. So hopefully that's pretty straightforward. Again, if you have any questions, please make sure that you contact me, and I'm happy to clarify anything. Those of you who have emailed me, and you might feel stupid asking the question, there is really no stupid questions, right? It's better to know what you have to do and be absolutely sure that you're doing it the right way, instead of just risking maybe doing an assignment incorrectly. So that is that. The grammar quiz number 4, journal number 3, and the week 4 discussion board, those are all due on Sunday, the 17th. Have a fantastic week, everybody. Take care.